Hello and a very warm welcome to WazirX and CNBC TV18.com present Digital Assets of the Future. As India contemplates the legality of cryptocurrencies in India, let us now try to understand what it would mean to regulate cryptocurrencies and whether or not it needs to be done country-wise or a global synchronization is what the world is looking at. I am now joined by Jaspreet Bindra, who's an author and blockchain expert, and Aritra Sarkale is Director of Public Policy, Government Affairs and Content at WazirX. Gentlemen, hi, thank you so much for joining us. Aritra, I'll start with you. And there's a lot of work that has been done by the exchanges, by the stakeholders as well, when it comes to the regulatory conversations with the authorities themselves. Where would you say we stand right now? Because the narrative clearly has changed.
So I like to believe that the narrative has changed from certain sides, but where we want the narrative to be changed in those particular funnels, that has not changed yet. So let's be honest to each other over here. But yeah, a lot of work was done. When I say work, in the last 1.5 years, from the ban in 2018 till now in 2022, I think there has been some fantastic developments from the industry. In terms of defining what this is, because earlier the general conversation across the globe was a little bit misinformed, and it was around, oh, this is just a new type of currency, oh, this is just this is going to be the new world order. So from immature conversations like that to more matured financial conversations, in which fit into the larger economic debate in India, we have had conversations. Earlier, the conversations used to be just with one particular department or one particular funnel in the government. But overall, we have had discussions with the Prime Minister's office, with the Finance Ministry, with RBI, multiple discussions. There are other ministries which got involved in this, because this is just not about a finance. This is just not about a asset, or this is just not about a commodity, right? This entire technology, this open source technology on which an entire industry which has been created in the last 4 years, every aspect of governance gets impacted. Right? So a lot of chatter has happened on that. We have, from our side, when it comes to taxation, from our side, when it comes to regulations, from our side, when it comes to how do you define these kind of things in a larger ambit, we have put forth our words through folks like you or directly to the government. Now we're just patiently awaiting in terms of what happens next, in terms of when the bill comes. But to tell you folks, the budget's coming out right now. So with a lot of things we have talked on the taxation side, in terms of what needs to be done in terms of taxation, what type of taxation should be there. So 3 things I'll put it out. One, we also have talked, and we've sent to the government a sort of a framework, a taxation framework that takes into consideration, the different aspects of crypto assets. That one. B, a legal framework, which I keep repeating everywhere I go, whether it's whether there are platforms like yours, or even when I'm talking to 20 folks in Bangalore at a hackathon event, a legal framework that gives clarity on the categorization of crypto assets under the ambit of financial laws in India. Third, the clarity on which the Government of India department, which Government of India department will manage these crypto assets. Will it be one, or will it be a set of 2 agencies or 3 agencies? So clear policy and legal uncertainties in terms for collaboration between the private as well as the public sector, banks and crypto asset exchanges, and a lot of and much more finer things like on FEMA and all of that. But we've sent a lot of literature. We've had a lot of advocacy efforts that we have done, but now we're just waiting and we're just providing as much information to law enforcement and the government, and we want to just wait it out and see what the Government of India does.
Oh, well, I will give it that to you. A lot of work really has been done, and especially by you guys. But I also want to come out with a few statements that we've heard in a recent past. And this one is to you, Jaspreet. We've heard the finance minister say that the technology is evolving and is the reason that they're looking at to the world on what the world also does in this sense. And then we've seen PM talk to various events, and the latest clearly has been at the WEF, where he said that a synchronized world regulation is what needs to be done when you look at cryptocurrency as a sector. How would you read all of these statements?
Thank you, Manisha. When any new technology comes in, and especially when it's a very fundamental, very disruptive technology, these debates, these conversations are par for the course. So I'm not surprised by the multiple debates happening, the arguments being put forward, etc. You think about artificial intelligence. I mean, there is as much conversation on how that should be regulated. many decades back when nuclear energy came in, fundamental disruptive technology, which had both its good sides and its bad sides, and the same debates happened. I'm speaking to you right now from Cambridge in the UK, and the situation is very familiar. The same debates are happening here, the same debates are happening in the US, etc. So, in that sense, when the finance minister and the prime minister are talking about the fact that this is a global issue and probably needs a global synchronization, global agreement of some kind, there is definitely some truth in it. Having said that, it is much more, it's easier said than done. I think probably the last time this happened was with nuclear energy, and very successfully. Since the Hiroshima incident, or the Hiroshima horrific incidents, no other, nuclear bomb, touch wood, has been dropped since then. And so that was successful. Now, whether crypto can reach up to that level of importance and significance for all world leaders to kind of sit together in a world geopolitical environment which is very fractured, unlike that time, I think it's going to be extremely difficult to do. In my view, AI, artificial intelligence, probably has a much bigger bigger effect, and probably would be top of the list if something like that was to happen. But frankly, we are living, at least technologically, in a bipolar world. There's the global internet, and all current technologies associated with it, and there's a Chinese internet and technologies associated with it. And I think for both of them, all the countries to sit together and frame a global resolution, while ideal, I see the possibility of that being very remote, to be very honest. And that's why I think at this point of time, we should be focusing on country level regulation, and maybe later, when the time is ripe, we can all sit together in a new United Nations and make a global resolution happen.
Well, yes, they're very well said. Things can be put on paper and in discussions, but whether or not they can be implemented is yet another question there. This one is to you, Aritra. There have been various statements on how there is an understanding now that you can't really ban cryptocurrency trading. What you can do perhaps is regulate, supervise, put out a list of do's and don'ts. Do you see that conversation going well ahead?
So, I mean, how do I put it? I want to put it politically correct. See, banning an asset class or banning a new industry or banning a new technology does not make business sense right now, and also it's not in the lines of the economic goals that we have in India. Our Prime Minister has gone out not in one but two occasions in the last 60 days, and he's been pretty vocal about a global cooperation between countries, so that an amicable solution is reached for crypto and blockchain. Now, in terms of you need to have, what happens if you ban? Let's forget crypto and forget blockchain. I know why we're doing all of this talk and all of that, but you ban anything, what happens? Do you think things will stop? No. And an underbelly will develop. An underbelly of companies will develop, and you don't want that. That's bad for the law enforcement. That creates an entire new channel of conversation and conversations and products and companies that the law enforcement has to fight. None of them will be under the law, right? So banning never makes sense. Now, in terms, look at most of the Indian exchanges that you have. Like, what will happen today? This is a massive industry, right? When I say massive in terms of revenue, massive in terms of the number of people that are employed in this country, massive in terms of the number of product blockchain companies that are coming out. I mean, this is an open source tech. I started out of Bangalore. I know. Okay, here's the thing. I'm not making this up. In December, after I came back to India, I at least met 150 more startups, people who are at the age of 18, 19, 20, who have created blockchain product and crypto asset companies sitting out of Bangalore, token-based companies. Now, one question they asked me, Aritra, what happens if this is banned? Where do I go next? Should I go to Singapore? Should I go and register my company in Delaware? Should I move to the US? Should I go to Dubai? You don't want a situation like that. You don't want another brain drain. Now, Indian exchanges have bared the brunt of these policy making, but now good things have happened in the last 1 year. So Indian exchanges are registered. Most Indian exchanges are registered in India, right? Like folks like us, WazirX, we registered out of Bombay, right? At the same time, I would say, I've said this multiple times here publicly, in private conversations with bureaucrats also, and thankfully, lot of bureaucrats and a lot of ministers are of the opinion like, no, we're not going to ban it, but let's have a solution which allows companies like you to exist, allows this industry to exist, but under the ambit of law. But under the ambit of law, where you're taxed, where you're registered, where there are rules for how do you even register a coin. Today, left, right, center, anybody can create a coin, right? And people ask us, oh, how is this coin valuable? How is that coin valuable, right? Purely from an exchange talk. So once you have regulations in place, all of them come within the same funnel. You tax them. It's a proper industry. There are more people who are interested in it will come and create companies. They're already creating companies in Bangalore, in places like Kerala, in places like Bombay. Once you bring in laws, another thing that will happen, if you don't ban it, investments will come to India. Look at the amount of investments which are moving up to Dubai today in crypto. I was there in December for 2 days. I came back for 2 days. I went over there. Probably every investor is looking to put money in these young blockchain based product companies. So what we need now is not to have another brain drain of these guys, folks from India going outside and building companies, but to create an architecture, create an infrastructure, create a layer of policies which allows the next 10 years of companies to be built in India, to be registered in India, to have jobs in India, investments move into India. That's how I look at it.
I absolutely get your point, and I'm not a big fan of anyone can create a coin. I mean, yeah, that is the reason we have those thousands of coins in the international markets, and we don't know what to do with half of them. Such weak white paper for some of them there. But I'll move on. Jasprit, this is to you then. So when we talk about the regulations, really, and when we talk about the importance of regulations, and as Aritra put it quite nicely, that there needs to be a law, and there needs to be a law with do's and don'ts into this market here. Would you say that developing markets would need a different type of laws, or do you think we are ready with this new technology to look at it in the same pace?
Manisha, and taking off from what Aritra said, you cannot ban a technology just because it has a perceived dark side. If that was so, there would be, cars kill so many people. In fact, when the internal combustion engine came in, there was a lot of problems because, people were dying with accidents. People didn't know how to do cars. There were no rules. There were no traffic lights. There were no regulations. There was no thing that you have to drive on the left side or the right side, etc., etc. And eventually those got formed, and now the IC engine transformed the world. The same thing is going to happen with electric and autonomous. Artificial intelligence has its dark side too, but you can't just ban artificial intelligence. Drones can be used for wrong things. You just can't go and say, I'm going to go ban drones. So that's not how the world, or how the technology world, how innovation works. That is why law was invented and regulation was invented. That, if there are these new things coming in, how do we make them work in the right way? And so absolutely, rather than throwing the baby out with the bathwater for all the reasons that Aritra said, we definitely do need to regulate new technologies such as crypto, rather than just think of banning them. Now, crypto is not easy to regulate. So let's kind of admit that. It's an intangible asset. It's a piece of code which can exist in a data center in Iceland. It is something which does not have a single authority regulating it, running it, and so it is difficult, and people are struggling with it. Having said that, there are multiple ways in which it is possible. There are gatekeepers such as wallets, for example, such as exchanges, for example. There are conversions between fiat to non-fiat, government currency, government issued currency, and cryptocurrency. And at these points, regulation can happen. Now, whether developed and developing countries will have different regulations, I don't think it's a question of developed versus developing, but it's a question of countries' legal framework itself. Certain countries, protect assets in a certain way. Other countries protect assets in a different way. Laws of each country are run differently, and each country will have to look at its legal framework whether developing or developed, and build a regulatory framework around its own legal framework. And so in that sense, yes, it will be different, but it will be different not because of its stage of economic advancement, but just because each country is different and its laws are different.
I want to put in another point of discussion as well, and the couple of things that we continue to hear from the regulators or the government is that, one, they want to protect the investors' money because the cryptocurrencies are so volatile. And the other point that the regulators and the government continue to put out is that the monetary policy making and implementation becomes harder because of the kind of visibility that the cryptocurrencies are getting. What is your sense on this, Ritra?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I got to be very careful when I say this, but regulated. Stock markets are regulated, right? The commodities markets are also regulated. There's still speculation in that, right? Anything that you don't understand fully, you will tend to speculate. And this is the way I look at it. I'll give you an example. I might get bashed for saying this publicly, but look at the stock market and the commodity markets over the years, right? I've been investing for the last 15 years, and I've been doing it in my personal capacity. I do my own analysis. I do my own chart analysis and all of that. Now, look at the same thing with cryptos. Crypto exchange business has become mainstream only in the last four years, I would say. Like, I saw cryptos grow from 2014 when we invested in that. Now, if you don't, a lot of people still don't understand it fully. And the same thing also goes for stock market. A lot of people still don't understand the stock market and how even commodities move. They will still tend to speculate on that, right? So that's why regulations are required. So that scams do not happen, so that the average Joe is protected from the financial crimes. It brings a sort of stability so that these random coins won't get listed. Now, to your question specifically, now, with the kind of technologies I have personally seen with or got involved with in the last 10 to 15 years, see, anytime a new technology comes up, whether you weave that technology into, say, the economic infrastructure of the country, or you weave it into the national security of the country, or you weave it into other socio-political infrastructure of the country, these three funnels, every time a new tech comes, as Sir was saying, every time a new tech comes, you look at, oh, this might impact national security. Probably yes. Oh, this might impact this. Oh, this might impact this. Right now, for example, and these type of arguments do not stand the test of time, simply because the tech that you have right now around crypto, around blockchain, is it the most perfect technology around? Will it change everything utopian worlds? No, it will not. It evolves over the years, right? Operating systems have evolved over the years, from mainframes to the chip manufacturing to personal computers. All these things have evolved. So in terms of a nation, in terms of how it stands, particularly because I've heard this statement a lot of times, that it will impact the financial stability of India, it will go against financial inclusion, stuff like that. I don't think so. Having said that, the initial arguments that were made for crypto in other countries like Africa and other continents, some of those arguments stand true for those countries, because you never had things like UPI over there. India, with stuff like UPI, with layers like UPI, changed the game when it came to financial inclusion and stuff like that. So we need to look at the larger and the better aspect of this industry, and because let's not compare it to everything that is physical, like in person right now, like you and me are talking, sir is talking, we three of us are talking through the internet, right? This is about the internet economy. This is about how you trade between digital goods. This is about how you trade, how you form companies on the internet. It is completely redoing basic how company formation has been done over the years, like through DAOs and all of that, decentralized autonomous organizations. So it's a force of nature. It will come. The best way to take it forward for a country like India, rather than completely negating it, oh, this might affect this, I don't think that's true. That's not technically true. That's not true in terms of economics. I've seen it grow in this country in the last 5 years. You need to inculcate the good parts of it so that the country benefits when you go forward. Imagine today, in 4 months' time, if, touch wood, during the monsoon session, even a 20-30% positive bill on crypto comes from India, that too. Do you know what kind of an impact it will make on a global scale? India does that, people will follow across the world. People will follow, other countries will follow. Today, we just have white papers. Like Monetary Authority of Singapore has a white paper. The European, there's another commission over there which works on blockchain. They have a white paper, but you don't have anything concrete. So I'm saying, we're not saying completely remove capital accountability rules and all of that. We are saying inculcate the best parts of this technology, see how it works to help the government and the economy grow so that there are more jobs over here, and take it forward. But statements like, will it completely impact and destabilize economy and all, those are not true. Those are not technically true. Those are not mathematically true.
All right. I want to bring in a more recent development. And, the last 3 or 4 months was all about conversation about what China seemed to be doing. And China is a pretty big
Yeah.
economy in itself as well. Jaspreet, this one is for you. So, and then we're talking about what Russia is out to do, a blanket ban perhaps on crypto trading activities and mining. But again, on the same lines as China, Russia also says that holding cryptocurrencies by the citizens is something that they're not going to touch right now. How do you read these back and forths from countries coming in on crypto?
I think besides the leadership of the Communist Party in China, no one really understands what China is trying to do in the past 3 to 6 months vis-a-vis all technology, not only crypto. If you see the whole Alibaba and incident, if you see the related to e-commerce, the things which are happening there, if you see the ride-hailing Didi not being allowed to take new customers for the last 4 to 6 months, listing, delisting, being taken over by government. I think there's a particular game plan which probably the Chinese government has for all technology, including crypto, which none of us, at least I, do not understand. And so I think the crypto part in China comes within their overall new moves, fairly fundamental moves, which are happening in technology, where at least the way I see it is that the party and the government is trying to take back control of everything, especially technology, which had become extremely powerful, and therefore the whole banning, unbanning of crypto, which has been happening there in China. Now, having said that, Manisha, it's sometimes good to put yourself in other people's shoes, and despite all the optimism that we have, if you kind of put yourself in a government's shoes, a bureaucrat's shoes, this is so new, so different, so fundamentally against every tenet that they have absorbed in their last 50 years is of the way money is supposed to be, and how money is created, how money is backed, how there's trust built in money, how money is used as a fundamental tenet of monetary and economic policy. This is so against that I'm not surprised that these debates are happening, and because people do not understand, and it will take time to understand. And what Arthur and his colleagues are doing is really more than anything else building awareness and making people understand that, look, this is what it is, and this is how it is different, and why this is happening in every country in the world. You mentioned Russia, it's happening in the UK, it happens in the US, advanced countries, many others, because everywhere it's the same issue. This is a completely new technology, more than a completely new technology, it's a completely new kind of currency, and a store of value, which is so fundamentally different from what has been there for thousands of years, that everyone is confused, still trying to grapple with it, and therefore you see this zigzag and these yo-yos happening, because we were not able to understand it. And as was said a little earlier, I think maybe there will be a world policy on it. I doubt that, but more likely a large country, hopefully India, will take the lead and bring out something which will satisfy both sides of the table, the government and the central banks on one side, and the technology and industry on the other side. And once that happens, I think multiple other governments will then also follow that same policy. Until then, please, you can expect more volatile zigzag to happen, almost as volatile as the currency itself.
All right, we live in hope, don't we? But your choice of word was great. I mean, you almost had me thinking like a regulator, but all right, that's for another day. I also want to talk about the positive aspects that we've heard from various economists. There have been a lot of believers now. We have global banks, brokerages also starting to, stand at their own desks when it comes to cryptocurrencies, offer those kind of products for their clients, etc. This one is to you, Aritra. So, there are various numbers out there on how, that percentage of GDP will start floating on blockchain, and we'll see economic resurgence because of that, and job creations and the kind of investment that the sector also is seeing. I mean, are those going to be important points for regulators to start looking at when they look at policies?
So, I mean, I don't want to promise anything and then get caught in the ring of fire 3 years down the lane. But I'll break.
Every answer of yours starts with a caveat. I like that.
But, yeah, I've learned it very recently. I've learned it very recently to catch whatever I say. But okay, let me break this down. Okay, now. And let me just tell you literally word to word what my conversations have been with various governments, and what they are thinking in terms of, hey, fine, you are a part of WazirX, fine, or you are a part of this company, fine, you're a part of Binance, you might be a part of Coinbase, but what is it for us? What is it for my country? But in terms of what is it doing to the larger economy, let me put it out, and I'll just literally tell you what's happening on the ground. One, there are two languages, the two programming languages by which you create these platforms on the blockchain, whether it's an exchange or anything. One is Solidity and the other is Rust, two massive programming languages which has come up, right? Today, in the entire world, the market cap of this entire industry is close to around $2 trillion. These are numbers out of Coin Market Cap. Anybody can check that out. Now, all these companies are being built on Rust and Solidity. Do we have the same amount of engineers? No, we don't have. There is a massive movement for people. Folks are just now going out and learning Solidity and Rust on YouTube, and they're going on small Telegram groups and Discord server groups, and like, I'm a Solidity developer, I've just had 6 months of coding experience, can I do a job? So that is one type of job being created. The other, every traditional digital marketing job is being redone. So there's a lot of unlearning. Even people like us, like we were building I was building a media company before this, which is doing successfully well, right? People like us had to unlearn a lot of things about how the internet works, or how internet ads work, or how you build companies on the internet. How do you make a company which will get consumers after 1 year? How do you even do advertisements on the internet? This entire paradigm of how to build companies on the internet, a lot of us have to unlearn. And this has also led to a lot of job opportunities, massive job opportunities. Like there are sites like cryptojobless.com and all by Pomp in the US. There are new types of jobs being created. Skill sets do not exist for these jobs. People are learning on their own. I can officially tell you, I can count it on my fingers, there are hardly 5 or 6 premier institutions, educational institutions, which are giving you courses on this. Forget the crypto coin part. For a moment, let's forget the exchange part of the business. But the core technology, the jobs that we created, that's been there. Second, which I have seen from my personal purview, cybersecurity is a huge challenge. One of the questions that was given to me by ED and few other agencies, like, this is also a problem for me for national security issues. How do we deal with that? I was like, wait, I took a step back. I didn't have an answer for that. I very politely took a step back and I said, sir, there is something called blockchain vigilance companies which are being created. We can work with them for the country on a larger scale. That's happening, right? Third, your regular funnels in a state, what do you have? You have contracts, right? You have land contracts, you have contracts for like buying your house and all of that. Those things are being completely redone in what we now call it as NFT. Don't go with the name, forget the word NFT. NFT is nothing but, think of it as simple as English language as a unique code. Now that unique code is there on blockchain. It's like a key. You can't replace that. That's cryptography. You cannot replace that code. So each contract will have a code. Thus, through states of government of Karnataka, government of Maharashtra is working on this, and they've already worked on this last year with the company called Polygon, if I'm not wrong. That part of the business is being changed. Every business that you know, I'm not saying that, oh, this is a new technology, go change it. Every business that we know today, every type of business has and can change its way of working through blockchain for a better decentralized layer. Now, Another big change that is happening, and this is something that scares me a little, because I don't think we're prepared for this from the accountancy part and from the taxation part, is from decentralized autonomous organizations. How do you form a company today? There are ways you can register a company, right? There are ways you register a company, there are ways you go for an IPO and all of that, there are legal ways you raise funds and all of that. All of them, this entire layer of how startups have been built in the last 10 years, I'm from Bangalore, that is being fundamentally changed through a concept called DAO. What DAO does is, they don't need your traditional investors. That's actually happening. I'm not making this up. You remove the traditional investment layer. People like you, me, and sir say, even if we have, say, 50,000 Indian rupees in our account, we can also invest in DAO company. DAOs are nothing but startups, but they're on the blockchain layer. So it's a community-led investment that are happening. So they give you coins in return if you invest in that company. There are no management layers. So fundamentally, businesses, jobs, how contracts are done, layers of government, everything is being changed on the blockchain for the better. Is it the perfect tech? No. Are there issues? Yes. We don't have so many skilled people to develop these things. So in a larger 10-year period, from today to a 10-year period, a lot of your traditional funnels of state government, central government, and technology companies raising funds, building startups, would have everything changed on the blockchain. So the power is going back to the community. And last, another industry which is being completely revamped very quietly, fundamentally, is how digital ads work. Internet works a lot because of the digital ads, the way digital ads has been constructed, how your data is exchanged, like your data, my data, and Jasprit's data is being used by third party. That fundamentally is being changed by browsers like Brave, where they give you money in return for your personal data. So that goes to the advertisers. So it's a very different play to earn model that's being built, but these are very early days.
Okay, I'm going to take a step back and ask a very simpler question. And this is something a lot of us want to know about. And Jasprit, this one is to you. So, another thing that the regulators have put out when it comes to regulations is that this is a speculative asset class. I understand the blockchain part of it and its relevance to each walk of life, and how every company is onboarding it, studying it, researching into it, and finding a skill set, as Aritra says, is very difficult to do that in the beginning. There are meme tokens and there are social tokens, and there are thousands of tokens and cryptocurrencies out there. Even as we look at blockchain and the importance of it, there is a lot of clutter in the space as well. And do you see regulations taking care of this?
And the interesting part is that there's been this narrative for many years now, especially in India and a few other countries, that blockchain good, crypto bad. Okay, so there's been this whole thing that do everything that you want to do in blockchain, but you know what, crypto is a problem. It's like saying economy is good, money is bad. Okay, so you do whatever you want to do, build your economy, but you can't use money to do that. So like economy and money are joined at the hip. They are inextricably linked to one another. Unfortunately or fortunately, public blockchains like Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc., are inextricably linked to the currency or the incentives that drive them. No one owns public blockchains. They are managed because there are these currencies, these tokens, which incentivize the people who manage blockchains, and that's why blockchains exist, and that's why they are decentralized, and they would not be able to exist if this currency wasn't there. And so trying to artificially separate out blockchain from cryptocurrency is fundamentally flawed, and you need both. And many times we do forget that the promise of blockchain, you were mentioning percentage of world GDP. There is speculation that 10% of the world GDP will be on blockchains in one way or the other by 2030. So blockchains have many more use cases which go beyond crypto. NFTs, for example, is one more. Creating these new kind of organizations, building what is called the creator economy or the passion economy, which will be fantastic for people with talents, journalists, artists, etc. All of this happens because of this underlying blockchain technologies, and so we need to encourage that. Specifically coming to what you said in terms of the whole speculative bit, and is it really necessary? Therefore, I think every industry when it starts, it goes through a certain period of volatility. You could, I mentioned a few. There are more. You even think of the video industry. You even think of the internet, for that matter. People were very scared of the internet when it came in for the first few years, and so everything goes through its volatility. Stocks are still volatile, meme stocks, etc. And so, just because it is volatile doesn't mean that it is a bad thing. And we need to bring in, again, coming to the fact that you can actually regulate, you can bring in regulatory frameworks which can make it less volatile and create greater consumer understanding, etc., etc. Are they necessary? As I said, it's not only necessary from just a cryptocurrency as a trading instrument. Cryptocurrency will fuel the metaverse. It will fuel a parallel creator economy. It will fuel a new kind of startup, a new kind of organization. And so we need to look at all of this bigger picture, not just think of it as a trading instrument as we look at framing the right kind of rules and regulations and policies around it.
Fair point. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. We wrap up this conversation as well. It has been quite enlightening, and thank you for spending time with us. Regulations is an important aspect of this, and we perhaps will have to still await some more time on whether it's going to be country-specific, synchronized world regulations, as the leaders seem to be asking. I mean, that's anybody's guess, but you both have thrown a lot of light on various aspects. Thank you so much for your time.